Hi. So this is my first attempt at making a video of our sessions. Um, what I have decided is that I will be uploading small videos of different parts of our lecture. And then when we will have our synchronous session, I will only take questions uh, from students if there are any questions. I still intend to have our synchronous sessions, but do understand that this is a very fluid situation, so things might change in the next few days. Um, but as I just said, this is my first attempt, so bear with me if there are some minor hiccups. I did receive the hardware Friday evening, and between Friday evening and now, I have been training myself in terms of how to use it. I ordered a writing board and a couple of other things. Did install a couple of softwares as well. So and so far I've been relatively satisfied with the output. So yeah, let's begin our lecture and let's see how it goes. So when we met last week, we were discussing chapter 4, which pertained to capacity planning or long-term capacity planning, and the intent in chapter 4 was that we will first introduce ourselves to the notion of long-term capacity and why is it needed. And then we went on and identified a 4-step process or a 4-step approach. And the idea for that 4-step approach was that it will help us find out the need for long-term capacity. That was the discussion that we had last time. I will very briefly summarize what we went through last time, and then I will move on to our topics for today. So we started from the notion of capacity planning. And if you remember, I gave you an example of a company which, let's say, in 2020 has a capacity of 10,000 units. And in 3 years, the company is expecting a growth of roughly 3,000 units from 10,000 to 13,000. And what we discussed was that even though this is what is the expectation, predominantly this number is a forecast. It's the demand forecast that is driving this number. However, based on this number, we would expand our capacity. Now, depending upon how things turn up in 2023, it might be the case that we have more capacity than we need, or we might have less capacity than we need. And both of them present their own issues. So the idea is to have the optimum level of capacity, and that is why this notion of forecasting becomes very, very critical. Now, moving on, we discussed these 3 definitions. 2 of them we already know. We did discuss capacity in detail in chapter 5. The second one is utilization, which is an average of, or which is a ratio, sorry, correction, it is not an average, which is a ratio of your actual output rate divided by your maximum capacity. So I've said this many times before, utilization is actually how much of the capacity you are actually utilizing. So it's a ratio of the average output rate divided by maximum capacity. The only new term that we introduced in our last session is cushion. And cushion, as the name indicates, is the excess capacity you want to keep in your system just so that you can take care of either a sudden increase in demand, or if you have a breakdown or some other unforeseen event, you want to have some kind of a cushion. Now, these are the three terms that we will need in this chapter. So moving on, we discuss these four steps. So, and I said that basically 1 and 2 we will go through in this course. 3 and 4 we will leave to your ISDS and your finance courses. So we went through the simplified example. In this example, we assume the demand for a product is 6,000 units per year. This is important. It is demand per year. The time we need to make this product is 2 hours. So it takes us 2 hours to build a single unit of this product. We need to make 12,000 of them. So if I ask you how many hours do we need to fulfill this demand, the answer should be 12,000, which is simply 6,000 are the units that we need to make, and each unit takes 2 hours. So in total, we need 12,000 hours to fulfill this demand, right? That's relatively straightforward. Now, if we run the plant for 200 days a year, 8 hours a day, how many machines do we need? That was the question. Assuming we keep a cushion of 10%. Now, to solve this, I'm just going to move on to a whiteboard that I've just created. It's here. Okay, so we just calculated that that the need for, just a second, we make this, and now, yes. So we just calculated that if we multiply our demand with our processing requirement, we end up with 12,000 hours. Now, these are the number of hours we need to fulfill. I think fulfill is with one L, but again, I don't have a spell check over here. And I know you can't see me, but I have this smile on my face. Anyway, so so this is the demand. These are the number of hours we need to fulfill demand. Now, the question is, if we run the plant for 200 days in a year and 8 hours every day, we end up with 1,600 hours for one machine. Now these in principle are the theoretical hours you will have from one machine, which basically would assume that if you just keep on running the machine for 200 days a year, 8 hours a day, you will run the machine for 1,600 hours. But we know that in life, you always have to keep some cushion for eventualities. So in this example, or in this problem, the cushion that we said we will keep is 10%. So keeping a cushion of 10%, basically it means that even though we have 1,600 hours available, we will keep 10% of those hours separate as a cushion. So in essence, what we are saying is that we will take off 10% hours from 1,600, and those will be the number of hours we will use for our calculation. So it will be 1 minus 0.1. 0.1 means 10%. Essentially, what we are doing is we are removing 10% of hours from 1,600, and this comes out to be 1,440 hours per year. And technically, these are machine hours per year, 1,440 machine hours per year, because those are the number of hours we will get from one machine. Now, basically, we need 12,000 hours to fulfill demand. We have 1,440 hours from one machine. So how many machines do we need? The total hours are 12,000. The total hours needed is 12,000. The total hours we have from one machine is 1,440. And if you divide the two up, this will give you 8.33 which means that in order to fulfill the demand, we need 8.33 machines. And since we can't have 8.33 machines, we will round it up to 9 machines. And the idea is that if we have 9 machines, we should be able to fulfill the demand for these 6,000 products or 12,000 hours as indicated here. Now, this is something that we went through in our last session. Now, moving back to our slides. Basically, I showed you this formula, which is essentially the same thing that we just did on the whiteboard. And this formula had M, which is the number of machines that are needed or machining requirements. And D times P is your number of hours needed to process the demand, the entire demand, divided by N is the total number of hours we will have for which the process operates, times the consideration for cushion. Now, this is essentially what we did in our last session. And as I said, in the exam, you will have access to this formula. In fact, I will, if a question like this comes in the exam, which I am pretty sure it will come, this is the formula that I will provide to you, this one and this one in the exam. Now, this is something that we went through last time, and I said that when we meet next time, which obviously now we will not be meeting in person, but I mean, there will obviously be lectures. We will start our lecture from slide 10. So what I will do now is I will stop this recording. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to see if it is good enough for me so that I can post it online. And then I will start working on the second part of our session. So till then, stay put, and I will get back to you fairly soon. So let me stop the recording.